Well, good morning to everyone. I want to welcome you this morning. Great day in 2021, 2016. We are excited to now be broadcasting live on the Global GEG YouTube channel. And this is the launch of a global Google Education Group initiative, Voices Project. This is just an incredible moment. We have so much lined up and so thankful to share. So I want to welcome all of you. My name is JP Williams. I am the Montana GEG leader. I'm also an educational leader here in the state of Montana. And I am super excited that you are here with us today. And if you're watching this broadcast, it means that you are certainly a supporter of Native American, Alaskan Indian, Indigenous people's voices. The purpose of this project is really to develop a continual foundation for the support of Native American students, Alaskan Indian students, Native American families and communities, as well as educators, when we're using our virtual platform to do this. And the belief is that all Indigenous Native American people are important, and they play a vital role in our national history of America, and they also play a vital role in world peace and the entire development of humanity. And we have support platforms that we're going to be discussing throughout the event. Thank you so much for your participation in this incredible project that I'm so blessed and honored to work on. I do want to mention that the young lady that you saw dancing in her fancy shawl, Jayla, who is a daughter of Becky Brown, she is Ogala Lakota, and we are honored that she was such an amazing performer and so talented and a great young lady. And we're going to see that video again from Jayla with the sound. So thank you to Becky Brown and to her incredible daughter, Jayla. We love you and you're amazing, Jayla. Thank you. Such an incredible young lady. The Voices Project really is based upon the ideas that all voices are valuable and important. Everyone has a right to be treated with respect and dignity. And the world needs to support the voices of Indigenous Native American people and Alaskan Indians. I do want to introduce our guest today that I'm very excited about. Also, I want to introduce our host as well, our co-host. You will see Miss Bonnie Chalet, who is from Louisiana. I often refer to her as Miss 504, but she's an incredible educational leader who is doing so much in her community and rebuilding that community down in Louisiana. We also have Miss Stephanie Rothstein, who recently was noted as Educator of the Year, I believe, in Northern California. Something really special like that. Yeah, she's amazing. And then we also have Mr. Frank No Runner, who is a superintendent from St. Stephen's Indian School in St. Stephen, Wyoming. And Frank has an incredible journey that he's going to share with us in just a moment. Thanks for being here, Frank. I know you're super busy and you look great today.
Thank you.
Want to welcome, yeah, of course. I also want to welcome one of my longtime colleagues and somebody who's been my mentor my entire career and just an amazing educator who is so dedicated and so strong and has been the glue of the community in Clark County School District, the fifth largest school district in the nation, where I started my career, Miss Della Frank, and she is the coordinator of the Indian Education Opportunities Program. Super excited to have Della here. Just an incredible educational leader and making a huge impact, not only in her community for Native American education, but on the national scene as well. And the other guests that we have, the other heroes that are here today, Miss Amber Torres, who is the chairman of the Walker River Paiute tribe, who I met by chance on an airplane on a trip back from the White House a few years back to do some work with Dave Archambault and the Sioux tribe. And Amber, we're super excited to see you here today. Thank you. I know you're super busy, and congratulations on your recent victory as well in your election. It's great to see you. And then we have two very special ladies. We have somebody who is working and has dedicated her entire life to lifting the voices of Native Americans through her writing and through her vision and sharing that. And her name is Cinnamon Spear Killsfirst. And she is the author of two exciting books that I know somebody has the books there. Yeah, Go Dance and Maria Tallchief, and those are in partnership with Scholastic Inc. Cinnamon, thank you. She's an educator, a speaker, a mentor, just an incredible light in the community. And then our really true hero, somebody who's put it on the line for all of us as Americans and who's been to war and is a true warrior in every sense of the word. And she is very dear to my heart. I consider her a sister, Miss Micheline Bigman. And she is the founder and president of the nonprofit group, the Native American Women Warriors. There's a couple people behind the scenes I want to thank as well before we get started. I want to thank Javier Belen, who was doing some legwork before the event on Twitter for us. Thank you, Javier. And he's also produced some incredible graphics that we've been sharing on social media. Javier is super talented, and he is an educational leader in Mexico. And I also want to thank Gerardo Nervorat, who is also an educational leader in the nation of Mexico, who has been working behind the scenes. You won't see these people because they're behind the scenes. And of course, I want to thank Miss Stacy Klein, who is our stage director, our super producer behind the scene with all of the technological information and knowledge to make this look so great on YouTube, the Global GEG channel. So thank you all for being here. Really, really excited. One of our guests couldn't be here, and we are praying for him. His name is Wiley Brazier, and he's another educational leader down in Baton Rouge, and he is just a phenomenal leader. He is actually really dealing with some serious issues today, and so we just want to keep him in our prayers and our thoughts. And Wiley, we love you. We miss you. We know we'll see you in February on the next one. And I would like to always ask, because this is so important to our community, and it's part of our tradition. It's part of our Native American heritage. It's part of our Christian heritage. It's just part of an American tradition. Micheline, Miss Bigman, would you please do the honorary blessing just so that our event is blessed and that we have such positive energy for supporting our children, our families, and our communities today?
Creator, Heavenly Father, one of many names, we come to you. First of all, we just want to thank you and praise you for this opportunity that we have to reach out to those that are in need of this. We ask that you give us peace and comfort for those that we have lost during these trying times. The pandemic has been detrimental to all of us. But Lord, we know that you're going to take care of everything and open up the pathway for our youth, take care of our elders, our veterans, as well as our indigenous people, because we are spiritual and we rely totally on you. And we thank you for this opportunity. Again, Father, thank you for this time. Help us with our the challenges that we have, especially with our youth and their education. Be with them, give them the strength and the fortitude to press forward like we've always done. Our educators, be with them. Our veterans, give them the peace and help them bring them home and safe. Our elders, keep them safe in your arms and allow them to stay with us to teach us what we need to know as Indigenous people, as a strong nation's people. So, Father, we come to you and we thank you and we ask that you bless this broadcast and that we can reach out to those that really need this and be a positive thought and a positive move. We thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Micheline. Really appreciate that and put you on the spot there. That's, why you're my sister. I can count on you. I do want to send a real quick acknowledgement and a real special shout out to two guests that I know are watching on YouTube today. I'd like to welcome the Mr. Joe Caruso. We want to welcome you. We also want to welcome Dr. Christopher Bernier. They are with the Community Services Department and works as a special assistant to the superintendent, also liaison to the Board of Trustees. So Mr. Caruso, Dr. Bernier, I'm very grateful you've carried on the work that I know Della and I started many, many years ago in Clark County School District. We are super appreciative of all of the support that you have for the Indian Education Opportunities Program, and we are thankful for your leadership. So I hope you enjoy our show today and that you will be working with us again in the future as always. I want to talk about Miss Stephanie Rothstein and why she's important to be here today. Stephanie, good morning to you. I know we're on the West Coast, so it's good morning. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be part of this project and to be amplifying, supporting, learning while we are here. And my role in today's conversation is really going to be one of support and learning and moderation of the discussion. So I'm honored to be here to be supporting our guests. One thing, so as JP mentioned, there are going to be 3 platforms for today. And the first of the platforms for today is going to be really on how the entry into how do we begin to support students and educators. And if we're looking specifically at our group here, how do we begin to support specific populations? And we're looking today at Native Americans. And so how is it that we can best support and amplify voices? And in order to begin this conversation, we really might need to think about, especially during this time, the access to particular tools and internet access as well, and survival tools for virtual learning was the way that JP beautifully put that. And so in order to start that, I just wanted to give a tiny bit of background. There are a few things that we have done here at Global that we are so proud of that hopefully will help share and support within the community. And so there are 2 projects that I think might be useful, and then we'll launch into, I will have a series of questions and our guests will answer, and hopefully that will help to spark more conversation in looking at specific things that might be necessary as a beginning platform before we move forward into some deeper conversations. So the 2 projects that may be of help or use are going to be, we have a global educator, a Google educator project. And the 1 second, I'm sorry, let me pause for.
I can finish for her. we've done 2 series. One focused on supporting educators, and Steph led the way. We had some great educators from around the globe create videos to support educators in teaching virtually, because this is new for everybody. And at the same time, we also created a set of short videos for kids. We called it our junior training series, and it was to support kids and learning all these things and having like that reference material to fall back on, and something we could hand to parents and say, here, this is how you can do these things. Because everybody was learning at once, and things haven't settled down at all, but we at least created some resources to support. And back to Steph.
Thank you, Bonnie. Sorry, that happens with three kids in the background. Everybody's okay and alive, but drama, 3 sisters. So I tried. I even locked the door. None of it works. Okay. I know. I'm so glad. With the laughter, I think maybe some of you understand me. Okay. So I was like, Mommy's on air, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All right. So the 2 projects, hopefully, that Bonnie was able to share, we're super proud of, and I really do hope that they will be able to support and continue to support, and that we can add to those platforms. So I would also add, if there are particular things that, as you use them, if there are certain things or certain questions that you have, we are more than happy to continue to make support materials here. And I know that we have amazing people that are here in the chat, and Ms. Stella Frank would be also a great person to contact. So if there are specific things that you need, I know that we can help support you and put it onto our platform and anywhere else where it can go out into the community. But without further ado, I'm happy to be asking our guests some questions. JP, did you need?
I just want to put this little note out there. I know we're all in different parts of the country, so we're dealing with lots of technology to make it seamless. And if there happens to be a little glitch, guys, just be patient. We're going to do the whole show today, broadcast, and we're not going anywhere. So just so everybody knows, okay?
Perfect. Okay, so the first question, and I think Stacey's going to be putting these up to help, is as we think about technology and tech requirements and survival tools, what hardware and software applications are most needed in order to be able to participate? And I think we might even want to talk about what that means to participate, but I'm assuming that we're talking about participating in virtual learning, in learning in general. So what are those specific tools that you think are most needed for students and for families? And maybe we'll start with Ms. Stella Frank, if that's okay. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Eric, can you hear me?
Can hear you great. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Della Frank here, coordinator for Clark County School District. I am so thrilled to be here and to be a part of this with JP and the rest of you. You guys look amazing out there. You guys look wonderful. But let's talk about the question, the technology part of it. That was a huge issue from day one when we got into this pandemic. It caught us all by surprise. So one of the main issues, I'm here on the Moapa Paiute Reservation, so connectivity was a huge issue here. Having access to Wi-Fi, huge issue, and Chromebooks. And Clark County School District was diligent in making sure that every student had a Chromebook and that they had Wi-Fi access, hotspots, and stuff like that. Indian Ed, we sent out a survey to our Native families specifically asking them, do you have access? Do you have a Chromebook? Even though your school's giving you a Chromebook, are you going and getting that Chromebook? Making sure that they had access. We had issues with people, parents that couldn't pay for the Wi-Fi. So we've been working, and I know that Mr. Caruso, Mr. Bernier, their office works diligently to make sure that students have that connectivity. So that's huge. Being able to connect to the Wi-Fi, having that Chromebook, and knowing how to use it. That's also part of the issue.
And maybe we can go then to Frank No Runner.
Okay, Niskunni, my name's Frank Norriner. My given name's Manutsanap. It means became a leader in Blackfeet. I'm Sakapi Bakani. I'm Southern Blackfeet from the Blackfeet Indian Reservation. And I'm happy to be here today. One of the things the virtual learning taught us, the technology needs, we had all the same issues that Della just mentioned, but we were planning a native language immersion school. And it's the first native language immersion school on the Wind River Indian Reservation for St. Stephen's, the school I work at. So one of the things that opened our eyes was we were just trying to start a kindergarten model, and then the next year go to kindergarten, then to first grade, then to second grade, and so on and so forth. But online learning has taught our school that we can teach our immersion school virtually. And that way we could teach the whole household now. So all of our lessons will be designed for the entire family. And now we're reaching out to every kid in our school when we hope to be online come September 2021. And we're working with the University of Southern Australia to do our research model for us. And we are also working with University of Wyoming to plan this immersion school. The other thing as a superintendent, what I told my staff from now on, all of our kids entering school will get a laptop or a Chromebook. And from this day on forward, when we do come back to school, we will have in-person learning and also online learning, just like how me and my brother JP Williams does at Montana State University for our doctoral program. We got to go to school all weekend, but during the weekdays, we're online learning. So that's what it opened our eyes. And I think it's going to make us better as a school system just because of the technology. Like we have many tribal members that are working in there that sometimes need to learn more about technology literacy. And this is really helping us do that.
I love the positive spin that you've been able to put on the idea that we're taking something and now you understand, even when maybe restrictions change or we go back or whatever the process may be, that there's a piece that you're learning from this experience. I find that so valuable. Thank you so much for sharing that. JP, did you have something? You're on mute, JP.
I just had a question too for Chairman Torres. I know you see this from the whole picture of governance, and you take your responsibilities very serious because your actions, working with the legislature, working with the council, really do filter down to the success of students and families. How have you been dealing with this whole aspect of technology and really trying to get your families connected in your community?
So, Pija Wamawa, me, Amber Torres, mi nania nu agadikata poinabi nu agaigwe. So good morning, all of you. Thank you so much for having me this morning. My name is Amber Torres. I'm the chairman for the Walker River Paiute tribe in Schurz, Nevada. And thank you so much to be amongst you and with you this morning and for the invitation. But thank you for the question as well. I think since, we actually declared a state of emergency here in Schurz, Nevada back in March, our council really set into play, what are we going to do for our children, that have had to go to distance learning. We have a small county-run school here on our reservation, and we also have to bus out anybody who's 6th grade through 12th grade out to surrounding communities, which are sometimes up to a half an hour away. So we really were thankful for the CARES Act funding that had come through, which allowed us to set aside funding to buy Chromebooks for all of our K through 12, our college students, and our elders. And, that has been a huge success in our community here. I think that, this is shortly before the pandemic hit, we had negotiated a contract for high-speed internet for the first time ever on the reservation, which was very exciting in itself and something new, but it came at the opportune time. And so we were somewhat ready to go as far as trying to hook up Wi-Fi sites for our children on the reservation, and parking lots was a tough thing, but at least we had the access. So, in some senses, we were prepared. And, like it was said before, it's been a huge learning curve. But the biggest thing is just trying to make the access available while continuing to have our programs, our education and NYCP, different things, different programs on the reservations and in the high schools that help the kids continue to figure out what this distance learning is all about. It's something new to everybody. It's very challenging, ingenuity, also making parents and students responsible for showing up even though they're at home, because again, we know they're competing with cartoons and sleep and everything else. But we've been able to successfully launch our distance learning program here along with a lot of the players in the community. So I'm very, very thankful for that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And then I know, so we have a variety of people. We have a variety of people coming from so many areas and perspectives here, and can lend different voices to the conversation. So Micheline Bigman, I didn't know if there was a piece of this when we're thinking about the tech requirements or potentially like any platforms that are useful for students to have access to. If you have a lens on that you would want to share about anything related to access or what would be necessary or needed.
Well, I'm really kind of not familiar with a lot of the technology portion, but as a parent of 4 kids that are actually doing remote learning and 2 of them that are special needs, it can be quite challenging. I have to give a lot of my credit to my husband because he's a stay-at-home dad, and he had to step out of being a coach to when we moved over here to all of a sudden we're doing remote learning to where he's like, right there learning all of it. Now, there's a lot of things that I'm learning just in regards to the training that I've done, whether it's Zoom training but the importance of the technological part and then having the access. And I've learned so much. Even my kids have taught me so much just in regards to what they do in the remote, they're learning on school and how important it is and the technology, how much it is advanced. And I think, like I say, to all the educators, my hat goes off to you guys. I mean, a great round of applause because I know this is a challenging time for you. And I thought it was challenging for me, but being a mother of children that are taking on this challenge. And I guess being a military, I'm very stringent about, you don't watch cartoons. Education is the key. So I guess as the old drill sergeant or that sergeant mentality, it's like, I make sure that they're there. Their fathers were both dual military. So it's like, he makes sure that, no, you don't have time for cartoons or anything. We never come across those challenges. But not saying they're not there, but like I say, I want that what the educators are doing, what the education programs are doing, I think is outstanding. And like I said, I'm just a parent of 4 kids that are part of it. And I think it's a great program. And I see it just growing better and better.
Thank you so much. And then Cinnamon Spear Kills First, I was hoping that you would have something to lend to the conversation. Perhaps, I don't know if you want to talk about the way that some things, like I keep thinking about, we're looking at access, internet access, but also even thinking about the way to access literature, all of these pieces, like what are you finding is needed or necessary, especially during this time?
Thank you, Steph. And I just also want to offer a little bit of empathy to you for the kid situation. I too work from home, and I'm currently coming to you guys live from my mother's home, and she's grandma, so there's grandkids here too. So I'm like waiting for those screens also. But to answer the question, in this time, I primarily have been utilizing the platforms of either Facebook Live, Zooming to Facebook Live, familiar with StreamYard also, and just YouTube. I think that what I want to contribute to this conversation is I know, I mean, I've heard it even in my parents' generation, this belief that technology works almost against or in place of tradition or in place of culture, and that the youth are using technology heading maybe that way and not centering around ourselves and our identity. But what I just want to speak to is in this time of pandemic, my partner and I, our family have utilized Zoom and participated in the Thunder Valley CDC's 4-year to fluency Lakota language program. And so that is, 4 days of class a week where we are getting on Zoom and engaging and interacting and actually learning an entire language, helping to revitalize the language, or what I say is learning the language has helped to revitalize me. And all of that has been done using technology. So I just want to be a voice, I guess, for this younger generation who is really learning to integrate technology to help keep our culture strong. And I know that very much can happen as well in the educational realm.
I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And my biggest takeaways, I think we had one question that really delved into probably 3 or 4 of the topics that we were going to talk about, which means that there's so much here to share, and I appreciate that. And some of the big takeaways that I was hearing, I absolutely loved hearing the idea of how do we best use technology in a positive way. That was so powerful to me. Cinnamon, thank you so much for sharing that. And I know that we've been getting a few questions, so I wanted to give Frank No Runner a chance to answer this one that was coming in, just asking about the school system. I wanted to make sure you could see that question that was up there. So the question was, are Native American school systems separate from surrounding communities outside of the reservation? And I know it's a little bit outside of specifics of what we're talking about in this, but it does connect in terms of access to technology and specific pieces, and maybe some people wondering some of the big picture that maybe you can lend with your role.
Thank you. Yeah, it is different. I work for the Bureau of Indian Education, and we're a tribal grant school. And so the Bureau of Indian Education has 183 schools in the United States. And 53 of them are ran by the federal government, the BIE. And they're the ones with the boarding schools and stuff. And then the other 130 BIE schools are located on Indian reservations, and they're tribally controlled, meaning the tribe has control over them. So right now our tribe, reservation-wide, has a stay-at-home order. So that's why we are unable to go to school until the tribal council gives us permission. So that's why we're still on virtual learning and stuff. But it is different just because 8% of our schools, the Native American population in the United States, 8% of them attend BIE schools. And we are all 100% enrolled students there. And they come from many different tribes. That one time we tried to figure out how many tribes they all originated from. I think we come up with 173 that they were not enrolled at, but directly linked to that reservation or that tribe. And so our school was a Catholic school at first. It was a mission, and St. Stephen's Indian Mission. In 1889, the school was founded. And in 1975, it finally became a tribally controlled grant school. And so we are different from the state and public schools, but we also have a lot more accountability systems. So we have to answer to the BIE, then we have to answer to the state for accreditation, and it goes back and forth. So we do have a lot more accountability. The thing I did different with my school was when I first come there, I had a listening session, and 2 parents showed up to my listening session. And so I just kept reaching out. Finally, we got 35 parents to come there. And I asked them 4 questions, what's the school's strengths? Number 2, what's the school's greatest weaknesses? Number 3, if you could be king or queen for the day, what would you change? And finally, 4 was just you tell me how we can how can I show your work in our school, because I want this parent group to really mean something. One of those comments I read said, can you please put the Indian back in St. Stephen's Indian School? And so what I did was I created 3 school-wide goals with my school board and my administrative leadership team. There's 17 members on there. I get a lot of input and voices from them and disagreement sometimes. But we said, how are we going to do that? So we made 3 goals, but one of those goals focused on cultural identity and putting it back into our kids. And so I always encourage all my teachers for the first 2 weeks of school, let's sit down in an Indigenous talking circle and let's just get to know our kids. Let's get to know who they are, who their families are, who their support system is, and who's really there for them. Like when it's flight or fight, who they gonna call? Is it their uncle, their grandma? Because I was raised in a household with my grandma and my auntie that raised me. So we have these non-traditional households. So that's the biggest difference, is our families are really non-traditional. I'm fortunate for my 2 boys that also go to school there. They're 8 and 10, but they have a mom and a dad. And growing up without a father is pretty tough. And so I'm really glad that I had the leadership and guidance and support from my grandmother and my auntie to get where I'm at today. And that's working on my dissertation right now. But that's the biggest difference, is that our family structures are different than off-reservation schools. And our cultural identity, once we recognize that and we get that back into our schools made great achievement. And this might be the first school that I turned around from a poor school to a good school. So we just had our 5-year global accreditation review from Advanced Ed. Now it's called Cognia, but they accreditate schools all over the globe. And so they do our accreditation every 5 years. And when I first got here 5 years ago, we were a poor school. And then just in November, when they left, they gave us a good school ranking. So now my goal is to move it from a good school to a great school, because I always hear that Indian achievement is the poorest in the United States, and that sometimes us Indigenous leaders cannot turn around Native schools. So I've been able to accomplish that with my team and, of course, my family backing me. So hopefully that we could continue this journey, and I'll be able to write my dissertation on comprehensive school reform in Indigenous communities.
Frank, that's amazing, the work that you're doing, and I've followed you very closely over the last couple of years. I know you're doing a phenomenal job of turning that school, and everybody in your community should be really proud of that work. Della Frank, just real quick, Kata Riley is sending you a lot of love and huge shouts out from IEOP, and we're glad that she is watching today. Listening to Frank, is that things that everyone is dealing with, from Amber, from your perspective, is that an area where you're working in to instill the pride of who your people are and who the community is, and then that challenge of having to deal with the funding funnel that comes from the BIE, the Bureau of Indian Education, the federal government, the state legislature? How are you dealing with that as somebody who's an administrator over the entire tribe? I mean, there's a lot on your shoulders. We want to find ways to support you.
Yeah, most definitely. Listening to the challenges and the barriers, and some of the positive outcomes, from Frank is, I appreciate that, because being a county-run school here on the reservation, we rely on the funding that comes down, that funnels down to us. Fortunately, we were able to obtain one of our own that grew up on the reservation here, went off, got his education, came back, and really has revamped our Schurz Elementary School here. He's brought in a lot of Indigenous educators to our local county school here. We're made up of all tribal membership, tribal membership from other reservations that come in, and non-Indians. And, again, he has really incorporated our cultures, our tradition, our language, again, bringing in Indigenous educators that look like our children, that have are familiar with things that our children struggle with on a daily basis, and that cultural competency is really there. Again, I'm excited to hear some of the struggles that also you guys deal with, because, like you said, on a state, legislative, also federal level, I can go and advocate for those things. We don't get our funding from BIE, but I know that the funding from BIE is very limited because it's at the same level as all those other programs that are funded under BIA. And it's a struggle, and it needs to be fully funded, just like Indian healthcare and, so many of our other tribal programs that are federal trust and treaty responsibilities. So, yes, that's been huge, but I truly believe that, we need to continue to have all these programs within our schools and continue to fund them, whether that be through the county, through the state, through the feds, or on a tribal level, through possible economic development dollars. But, I think the biggest challenge is once they're off reservation at these high schools, that still be incorporated into their curriculum, to empower our kids to know who they are, remember where they came from, and, also educate others on who we are and what our story is. And so, again, that will continue to be our fight, and work together on the best behalf of all of our membership, and all of the nation, in Indigenous ways. So thank you.
We're getting some, thank you so much for sharing. And we're getting some great questions in the chat. I promise I'll come back to some of those. I had one question that I was hoping to ask Ms. Della Frank about building off of what Chairman Amber Torres was saying about how important is the funding and the grants. How important are the funding and grants to CCSD IEOP programming?
Thank you, Steph. That's a great question. Funding has always been an issue, especially out here on the Moapa Indian River Reservation, because funding like Title VI and the Johnson O'Malley grants, they're specific to students that are enrolled or descendants of a family member that has a CIB card. However, not all Native students are enrolled or have a parent that has that the card or letter that makes them eligible. So how do you meet the needs of those students? There's situations where we have partnered up with the Moapa Band, and they've provided like school supplies for the students that are not, that don't fall under the eligibility requirements of the Title VI and the JOM. So we're always looking for outside resources to get that extra funding for those students that don't qualify. But the Title VI grant and the Johnson O'Malley, the money that we get from those two grants all depend on the number of students. And Clark County School District has been working diligently. I have two SSAs. You mentioned Katya Riley, and May Rayford, and now we have Regina Britt that are working together with us to reach out to the families, get those kids that are out there, because there's thousands of kids in Clark County that are going without services, but it's finding them, getting the parents to fill out the paperwork and getting them to become eligible for our services. But so, it's reaching out to those families and making sure that they're following through and turning in the paperwork. But for the kids that don't qualify, that's a whole other issue. And I'm grateful to Clark County that they're doing their part to helping us get us a general budget to reach out to those kids too. So
thank you so much. I know there was one other follow-up question that had come in the chat from Rebecca Brown, it looks like. And Ms. Delafranca, I didn't know if you want to follow up with this one, saying, I'm a second grade teacher on the Pine Ridge Reservation. I was just wondering, how do you advise your teachers to grade students during this pandemic? So what would your advice be to this teacher? She was asking, should students be retained? There are so many factors.
Oh, this is huge. I'm a high school teacher, so when it comes to elementary, I don't know. All I know is that the teachers out here, and what I hear from the teachers that are tutoring American Indian students, they are struggling. Our students are struggling with this online learning. So what I'm hearing from the principals out here, that they are going to be a lot more gentler when it comes to grading, because the students are struggling to, first of all, to even stay online for the amount of time that they need to be online, and to follow up and do their coursework. So I believe that all of our teachers are going to be a little bit more gentler when it comes to grading and enforcing those rules, even when it comes to attendance.
Thank you so much. And as we are looking, there are so many platforms, and I know that we didn't talk in detail about them today. So, or at least right now as we move through this conversation. So depending on where you are in the school, some might be using Google Classroom, some might be using Seesaw, some might be using Canvas, some might be using some other avenue or a website of some kind. So there are many ways in when it comes to access and just understanding that. But this conversation has taken so many turns, and that's because there's so much that is a part of even being able to access education and access the technology that is necessary or needed to support students and families and educators during this time. So as we move through this platform one, there are many more questions that hopefully our panelists, we can reply after or continue on in the chat later, and can come back to these as we move into the other sections. But we wanted to make sure that before Frank Norenner has to go, that we are able to look at a connection. You started to touch on it, which was kind of the basis for, as we think about technology, as we think about access, that there needs to be some base before we even can access even that begins with the building of relationships and that foundation. And you started to touch on that. And so I was hoping that as our transition, you can talk through some restorative justice practices and things that have maybe helped in terms of managing stress, academic support, and in building connection, and some of the bases to those, like what is it that is the foundation of restorative justice? How has it worked in your situation? And what do you advocate for?
Thank you, Steph. Yeah, restorative justice, we implemented it in the year 2016. We did the teacher training, and then we also did the administrative training. But we also created a leadership academy that is focused on restorative justice for our incoming freshman kids as a pilot program. And what we did is I was the teacher, and I took all my teachers and all my freshman students, and we locked ourselves in the classroom together. And we just sat down, and I showed them a visual of a tree. And a tree has roots, and it has leaves, and it has a trunk, and it has the base. And so they had to tell us their life story by describing that tree. You know, who's their roots, you know, who's their foundation, who's their base, and who's going to help them grow and grow those leaves. But we did it together in many tiny talking circles, and we set protocols. We set our norms that was all based on cultural, the Northern Arapaho cultural there. And so we learned a lot more about their culture, but they also learned, the students also learned a lot about our culture. And we had a few Native American teachers then. I think we only had 3 at the time. My wife and my 2 friends that followed me there from my previous school in Busby, Montana. So they were there, and then so Mr. Juno, who's now my K-8 principal, and he's Blackfeet also, and we said, well, because some of the teachers said, well, this ain't gonna work. We're not gonna have buy-in, and because you always have the pushback, and we take that as a challenge, and we're gonna make them believe that this works. So I told Greg, I was like, it's gonna be up to me and you to change this vision here in your classroom. So I said, so for the first 3 weeks of school, don't worry about curriculum. Don't worry about the handbook. Don't worry about all the rules. But you just sit in there and you get to know your kids really good. Because I did ask him one question. I said, last year you had 17 kids in your classroom. How many parents did you truly know out of those 17, like on a personal level? And Greg said maybe 4 or 5. I said, well, this year, let's get to know all 17 on a personal level and really get to know those kids. So that year, he had 0 behavior referrals, and he had the highest test scores in the K-8 school. And so we began to start using other teachers to do this. And I completed a few studies based on restorative justice, qualitative and quantitative studies on that on restorative justice in our school. So it's shown that our discipline's declining with our achievement scores increasing. And that's why we were on a 3-year trend. We call them Pac-Mans, the bag Pac-Mans, the novice, where you have all your kids in the below proficient novice area. Well, that's the bad Pac-Mans. So that's what we call them in our data group. But that Pac-Man start disappearing. He start going the other way. And so now we have buy-in from the staff. And it took about a good 8 months. I think in March, I'm always late. I don't know why. I'm on Indian time. I think Indian time is a value in my family, but I was late to a staff meeting. And I walked in there, and usually the staff meeting, they sit at their desks, sit by their buddies, whoever they formed allegiance with. But I walked in there, and they were sitting in a talking circle, and they were getting stuff done. So I wrote a blog about that. I'm like, I actually walked into a staff meeting. I didn't have to facilitate it, but my staff was sitting in an Indigenous talking circle, and they were getting stuff done. Restorative justice works at all levels. It's not just for the kids. I use restorative justice with my administrative staff. They have disagreements and stuff. And restorative justice, it just focuses on a culture of care. So that's your culture. You care for your kids and your students. You care for everybody in that school. The second thing it focuses on is finding out where the harm's been done. And if you can find out where the harm has been caused or where it's been done, then you find out, well, how are you going to repair the harm? And it's not about pointing fingers. It's not about blaming. It's about just working collectively together where everyone could come to a good solution and everyone's happy. So I use that with my teachers, my administrative staff. Sometimes me and my board, we gotta have a talking circle. Like on January 26th, my contract's up. So January 26th, we're gonna have a talking circle and see if we're gonna extend this relationship. And I hope we do, because restorative justice, what it done for our school is lowered our behavior tons, and it also increased our achievement scores. And our relationship among our administrative staff is greater than ever. And also with our teachers, it really opens up lines of communication, and it gives people a voice and a choice into their education. It really helps them voice their opinions. Because when I first got there, everyone was scared of me because I was a superintendent. You know, he's Big Frank, and I was big. I'm still big, but he's Big Frank, and you know, he's scary. But now they come up and talk to me, and they disagree with me, and I kind of wish it was the old way. No, I'm just joking, but I really like that, and it kind of helps you lead from the back. Become a servant leader, because we are here to serve kids, and that's my life's goal and my mission. Like I said, I'm unsure if I'm going to write about restorative justice in my dissertation. They tell you get to choose your topic, but I don't think that's really true. I think they're going to focus me to do whatever they want me to do at the college there. But so the other thing with restorative justice that I really like about it is that it really brings culture back into the classroom. And so if you go in some of our classrooms now, by the Indigenous talking circles, all the kids, they create values and they create signs, they put them up. So these are our values for this school year in our classroom. And so it takes a good look at your values, and it uses ceremony a lot. You know, not really traditional ceremonies, but like there's a lot of ceremony to it. Some teachers, they may have a quick talking circle in the morning and a morning prayer, and it kind of gives the kids a calming nature, and kids are able to focus more and learn better also. So that's what really helped us with restorative justice. And in closing, I would just like to say I would reach my hand out to help anybody that wants to learn more about it. I had a great mentor. His name's Dr. Tom Cavanaugh from Colorado State University. And he actually studied restorative justice with the Maori people, I believe how you pronounce it, in New Zealand. So he has tons and tons of articles because he lived amongst those indigenous peoples in New Zealand. And he's the person that was my mentor. And he's still my mentor today. And I reach out to him a lot. So, and the last thing I want to say in closing is that our school has been at St. Stephen's since 1889. It was started by a Jesuit priest way back in the day. And we finally got a high school in 1935. So since 1935, there's been one college graduate from St. Stephen's, one 4-year college graduate, and he graduated in the 70s. And since that time, there's been no other college graduates that come from the school. So maybe that's why I believe in God. Maybe that's why I'm at this school, to help these kids succeed and go to college, because right now, my family alone, we're helping 7 kids go to school. We created a scholarship memorial after my late daughter, Jordan Rain No-Runner. She was stillborn back in 2008. So to honor her, I'm helping 6 Native American girls go to college with a scholarship every semester. And I'm helping 1 boy. 5 of them are Northern Arapaho, 1's Northern Cheyenne, and 1's Crow. So, but right now we currently have, our school has currently 8 kids in college at CWC dual enrollment, but now nationwide we have 14 kids that are enrolled in a 4-year institution. And so that's what restorative justice is doing for me. And I use it in all walks of life. So that's what I would really hope that any school that's interested in it to take a look at it. And the school that we studied was in Hinckley, Colorado, and it's not a Native school. And their assistant principal that implements it won the National Assistant Principal of the Year award a few years back, like in 2015. But they're not a Native school, and that's where we found it. That's where we found restorative justice. So I'm really happy, and I'm hoping to learn more about it. And it teaches me a lot, and there's a saying that me and JP always hear, you know, when you graduate with your bachelor's, you think you know everything. And then when you graduate with your master's, you finally realize you don't know anything. And then we're almost getting our doctorate, JP, my brother, but then we finally realize nobody else knows anything. So what the heck, huh? But I want to thank you guys. And I did practice this before I leave. So I figured out how to say it. And see, restorative justice helped me learn my own culture. So my greetings, what I'm supposed to say is Oki Nidaniku Nutsawa Amsakapi Pakani Amanutsana. So it says, greetings, my friends and relatives. Became a leader, and it was nice to have a good talk with you today. So
Frank No Runner, man, thank you. You're an incredible leader. We're just honored, super proud of you, man. To call you my brother, and I know we're just about around the corner and close out on that doctorate. Can't wait to walk across that stage with you. You are a blessing to your community. Keep up the great work, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see you next month on the next Voices as we highlight the St. Stephen's community. And I know you got another obligation, so thanks for taking your time this morning. Great to hear from you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. And then I did give my email. If you contact me, I could get you whatever, copies of my studies, whatever. Just let me know, and I'll sure I can help you.
And we'll run the information to get in touch with Frank on the banner, and you can get his whole presentation on restorative justice, which is
I want a copy of that.
More important. And Frank, I know you got to take off, so we'll catch you a little later, sir. Yeah. Stephanie, thank you. That was just an incredible session, and I learned so much from listening to Amber, to Della, even to Mitch and Cinnamon. I know Bonnie's going to be working on the next section that's super important, cultural identity. Just celebrating cultural identity is so important. I've been at the Stewart Indian School on Father's Day, and I love those celebrations. I know it's been different with COVID and the pandemic, but I hope that, Bonnie, we hear from everybody on how they're celebrating this culture.
Yes. I'm Bonnie Chalette, like JP introduced me. I am in the very bottom of America. I'm in the boot, in Baton Rouge. I am here as a student. My background is a little different. Like my undergrad and my master's are actually in history. So I know enough to know I don't know. I only know this much because you guys, I'm excited. Like, Cinnamon Spears Kills First told a story last time we met, and it was a story that I had heard in a book, but it definitely helped to hear, it was very powerful to hear it firsthand. So this portion, we're just going to talk about, celebrating that cultural identity and like how essential that is to students. So I don't know who wants to go first. And bring in, I know, Micheline, we haven't heard much from you. I would love to hear your thoughts.
She's a dancer. She dances all across the world.
No, she's the coolest.
Unbelievable. And she's doing some great work with NAH. Yeah, I'd love to hear about that. And I don't know, did you meet Amber in DC? Did you actually get to meet her, Mitch?
No, I didn't get it. Like I say, I think the last time we were at DC, that was during the Tribal Leaders Conference. I think the very last one that we were a part of. And there was just a lot of moving pieces at the time. So I'm sure, like I say, we probably maybe brushed shoulders.
We actually took some pictures. It was amazing.
It's been, Native American Women Warriors has been very, very beneficial. In a lot of ways, it's been trying. There's been times, but that's in anything that you start, especially when you're trying to bring a voice across a society that doesn't want to hear it. So, but listening to the educational part, I was like, wow, because I got my bachelor's and my master's degree through University of Phoenix. So I had to do a lot of online learning as well, and had started my doctoral. Never got a chance to finish. My mother was involved in a bad automobile accident, so I had to push that off to the side to take care of her. But both my children, my own, actually got their bachelor's degree through Colorado State University of Pueblo. And one of them is actually working with the Denver Indian school students. So he's really involved in it. And I was hoping I would get him to, watch this and maybe kind of put his spiel on it. He runs a podcast. So he's very out there, like Mom. We're trying to get that voice out there for our native people, our native students. Mine is more like on the veteran side of the house. Mine is a little bit unique, and in it, I was always asked, why did you start Native American Women Warriors? I said, it wasn't something I really wanted to start. It kind of started by accident, but throughout my military career, I was always one to surface women's roles and women's contribution. And then on top of that, the Native contribution. Then I ended up, I was always one to educate. Whenever we had the National Native American Month, I was always, dancing and got my kids dancing. I think my kids now, they all dance as well. So it was just something where I could share our culture, share that we were always told education and awareness. So, and then I just, and it ended up having, like I say, God puts you in a path. Sometimes you don't anticipate, but you go along with it. Native American Women Warriors, we started out as the first all-female Native American Color Guard. That's how we started at Denver March, and then we switched to a 501c3. And then since then, we've been a little bit of everything: advocacy, helped a lot of our veterans, women veterans, and our male counterparts. So we're kind of like a little bit of everything, but a lot, the last platform, when in regards to the educational piece, it seemed like a lot of it I could kind of like, I've been there, because I attended an Indian school. I was raised on an off-the-reservation. I attended the Indian school, and also attended a boarding school. So a little taste of a lot of that. My thing is, I really didn't know who Micheline Big Man was. I had because I wasn't raised as a Native, my father wouldn't teach us the language because his jobs took us off the reservation. So there was a lot of learning on my own, learning by the fly. But I have to honestly say, I was thankful for those that taught me. And I learned a lot while I was in the military from other Natives, the importance of our culture and our languages and our identities. And it was I kind of resented towards my family, my parents, because they didn't take the time to show me. But in the same way, I had to look at where they were at, being a family that part of a society that really didn't seem to even remember us, let alone, even think about us, was trying times during that. And then I experienced it even while I was in the military. My husband, he's half Black and he's half Indian, so he has those either he said he was Black, he didn't say he was Native American because of the backlash that he would actually have to experience. Now he's a little bit more proud of it, and I think it's when we got together, it just kind of surfaced a lot that he goes, no, I am proud to be Native, I'm proud to be Black too. So. And then now we're in a blended family where we took on 4 kids that are actually my nieces and nephews, and the 2 that are special needs. So I mean, it's a journey that seems to have a little bit of what we're all talking about in regards to this: the education piece, the leadership piece. Me being a leader in the military, like the Frank Noel Runner said, was get to know your students. I had to get to know my soldiers because they weren't machines. They had families, they had issues. And when we always say downrange, when we were at war, it was my responsibility to bring them home. And it was hard, but you had to know them. So it's, I want to say all of it kind of like what we talked about in the education piece and what Frank No Runner had said. It's like, wow, that's how it was in the military. That's how it was with life. But one thing I always encourage, especially my children, be proud of who you are. You're Native, you're strong, and we haven't, we're not going anywhere. we're still moving on.
Yeah, no, you have such an incredible story. You need to write a book. I'm just saying. Wink, wink. I've read a bunch of boring books, and that one would not be boring. And Cinnamon, she specifically told me how to say her name, and I still say it wrong. It is not Cinnamon Spear. I have like 3 friends with the last name Spears, and I call it's Cinnamon Spear kills first. I'm so sorry. I swear. I knew, and I was like, I'm going to say it right, and I didn't. So Della, how or Amber or Cinnamon, how is IEOP celebrating Native culture? Anybody? Does JP pose that question for me? But yeah.
I'll go ahead and go because I really, I appreciate the story that was shared before. And Micheline, we actually got to take some pictures back at the last Leaders Forum, where I got to be introduced to you. And I thought the Women Warriors was just absolutely phenomenal and amazing, and I was so honored to be in your guys' presence. And I see you guys through Facebook as well, and to me that it's powerful, very powerful, especially because it's women. And but our biggest thing here is, again, just trying to really incorporate Indigenous teachers within our school, always teaching our kids to practice our culture, our traditions, really trying to push language within our school here. And I see it from the other 27 reservations in northern Nevada as well, trying to really incorporate language because it is a dying tradition. And the biggest thing is, just like was said earlier, is always remember who you are, always remember who raised you, where you came from, where your roots are, and never be ashamed of that. A lot of our children that go to school off the reservation still face racism, bullying over their culture and their traditions and the things that they know and express. And it's sad. It's a sad situation. But, here we tend to do a lot of community outreach, a lot of community efforts of sharing our cultures and our traditions and what can we do. And we've every single year for the last 90 years, we carry on our annual Pine Nut Festival, where we sing and we dance and we pray for a good harvest of our traditional foods, which is the pine nut. And, we always, for several years, have invited our local school to be a part of that, see what we do as the employees of going out to pick the pine nuts, clean the pine nuts, cook the pine nuts, bag the pine nuts. And then ultimately, once we do our pine nut blessing on Saturday night, we hand those out to all the dancers that come in and sing and dance all night for the good harvest, the next year. But, so I'm proud to say that's one of the traditions we carry on. But also in our schools, they've created Native American clubs, those types of things, because again, I think it is very, very, very important that our kids talk about who they are, what their traditions are, why they do the things that they do for our non-Indian people, so that they understand where they come from and who they are, and that they're proud to show them that. Because out there's a stigma of who we are and what we do and how we live, and that's absolutely not true. So the better off, the more educated they are, the better off they will be, and our kids just need to stand strong with their long hair and the things that they do and why they do, and march forward. And us as parents and as educators and administrators and councils, we need to back that and we need to support that as much as possible, and also carry ourselves in the same way. We recently just seen the story of the 10-year-old little girl, Indigenous girl, that got shamed for wearing her ribbon skirt, to a formal. That was so disheartening, and I was so proud to see the Indigenous women around the nation stand strong with her, in support of that, because we need to show the nation that we are still here. We are strong. We're Indigenous and we bring so much to the table. And, again, I think that's it, is we just need to practice that every day, not only within our own communities across the nation and for our non-Indians, so that they understand who we are. So, Pijat you.
Can I?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Della,
can I caveat for what she said? When I seen that in regards to the girl when she wore her ribbon skirt, I remember in the military, and I know we're pressed for time. I know when I was in the military, we have what they call a dining in and a dining out. And a dining out is where you wear your class A's or your uniforms or a formal dress. Well, I showed up to one in my whole buckskin outfit and beadwork set. And needless to say, the first thing the colonel said, he's like, "This is a formal, it's a formal attire." And I said, "No disrespect to you, sir, but this is my formal attire, and just my breastplate alone is worth more than that dress that your wife is wearing. So don't ever disrespect me." And I walked in, my whole Indian outfit, feathers, everything, and everybody's like, "Wow, we." And I guess I was one of those that, I don't want to say I was a rebel without a cause. I was a rebel with a very strong cause, and I wanted everybody to know that Big Man is here, Big Man is Native, and Big Man is proud to be Native. So in those ways, I would do that, show up to a dining in when we are supposed to be in my dress blues, in my buckskin outfit, in my beadwork. When I was in Iraq, I shipped all my Indian outfits. And I think I was working to prepare for our Native American month. So I was reaching out to natives that were close by. So I performed a dance. I performed the jingle dress dance, and we did the round dance, and I had speakers, and I was ridiculed again. You're kind of, I'm like, no, first of all, you need to stop right there, because you're talking to a wall when you want to come at me that way. Because I had some people that were like, I said, this is a time where this is education and awareness. I was an equal opportunity advisor in the military. So I said, that's what I'm doing. The Iraqi people, the local people that were right there, they just loved it. They were jumping in on the round dance and everything. So it was just, sometimes you have to pick those certain doors of opportunity. And a lot of times, yes, I might have had some pushback, but I just pushed back even harder. So like I said, when I seen that article about the girl, about her ribbon skirt, I mean, it hit me hard. It kind of hurt, as a combat veteran, we fight for those freedoms. So, and I've been there, but I was like, my hat goes off to her. I was like, I can't wait to meet her, because she's just like, she's my hero right now.
if you let me know who she is, we will work to get her as a guest on our next Voices, or an upcoming Voices. I know how Cinnamon is celebrating culture through her literature, and I do have some very fond memories working with Della on some very hot summer days to celebrate that culture down in Vegas. How has it been with the pandemic, or what were some of those things you were doing, Della, to just coordinate bringing that community together and celebrate?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question. I just want to say that I'm from New Mexico. I am part Spanish and part Apache. I'm a descendant. I grew up around Native culture. I went to schools that may not have been a BIE school, but I was raised with Native Americans. So when you talk about culturally responsive and culturally awareness, I'm like, okay, I grew up being that way. I mean, the culture was everywhere. And I guess that's why I feel very, very fortunate to be in this position, because what I grew up learning the round dance in school. I grew up with archery. I grew up with leather work and all of the stuff that I'm trying to bring into Clark County School District. I grew up with. So I'm very fortunate that I'm only trying to do what I grew up with as a child. So I'm just going to show you what I grew up with, and I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I can do this.
And Della, while you're doing that, like, do you think the fact that you learned those traditions growing up and then had them at school, like that obviously like directly impacted, your, I don't know, ability to perform, I say ability to perform, but like enjoyment of school, if you will?
Ask me that again.
Like, do you think because you got to celebrate those traditions growing up that it like made school more like enjoyable or welcoming for you?
Exactly. It did. It did. It did. Let me see if I can share this. It did. It really, really did. And I feel sad that the Native students are not experiencing the same thing that I experienced. I'm trying to get this.
Our kids do love celebrating. It's just been so different also with this pandemic that we've really had to rethink how we celebrate. And I would ask if somebody's watching on YouTube, just to send us your ideas on, what might be some good ways to really celebrate the voices of Native Americans. I know Della has an incredible
I'm
PowerPoint,
trying to get it here.
and we're hoping to get that in soon. And I know there wasn't the audio on the video earlier of the young lady dancing, Jayla.
We got your screen, Della.
There's Della's PowerPoint right here.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Yes.
You can.
Okay, yeah, we don't have the audio on this, but this is the Gathering of the Nations in Albuquerque, New Mexico. All the natives from around the world meet here yearly. So I just like to highlight that to teachers when I teach teachers how to tutor American Indian students. Is I really want to highlight the 4 nations in Nevada, because a lot of them do not know that. And I always want to make sure that people understand that Clark County is one of the fastest growing counties with the Native population. But here's one of our events where we truly bring out our dancers. Can you hear me, John?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So here's the end of the year celebration for our seniors. We bring all of our seniors that are in our program, and we celebrate what they've done for 12 years by bringing dancers, flute players, drummers. And here's some of the pictures of all the people that work together. Here on the bottom, you see the Clark County Indian Education Parent Committee. We work very close with the parent committee. We have ESSA meetings, every Student Succeeds Act meetings with tribal representatives. We have the trustees that we meet with yearly. Dr. Linda Young has been an advocate for Indian Ed. Also, we have 2 locations now. We have a location here on the reservation on the Moapa Indian River Reservation, and we also have one in Las Vegas. We're trying to do both things at both locations, like adult education, summer programming, STEM programming, parenting classes. We just had a financial literacy workshop online. We invite FACES, the family community outreach group out here. This is the second building that we have here in Las Vegas. There's Dr. Bernier at our dedication, where we bring out the dancers and we bring out the community to be involved. Here, you'll see we give out school supplies. We start the year out by having a back to school event where we bring all of the students together. We even invite some of the that's where we met John, was the colleges come out too. Then we have a spending frenzy where we teach students how to manage finances. And we give out awards and incentives for perfect attendance, outstanding citizenship, A honor roll and AB honor roll. Yearly, we take the college tour out of state, and we also have one in state over to UNLV. And the students spend the night. They actually stay in a dorm. We have field trips to the Smith Center, Sequest, the Grand Canyon. Down here, we're teaching kids how to sew ribbon skirts and ribbon shirts. We focus on math and English. obviously, and then we support other Native students. This Las Vegas Youth Orchestra, we had one of our students that was selected to be on the Las Vegas Youth Orchestra, and we gathered other students to go and support her. We have conferences where we take students to the local sites out here. And here's a picture of our seniors for the last few years. And it's all culturally based. The chairman down here, Chairman Perry, Laura Water Perry, she is the chairman of the Moapa Band right now. And some of the other ones are previous chairman of Las Vegas, Paiute Colony, and Moapa. So that's just something that I want to highlight, because we do a lot out here, and culture is something that's very, very important. And we're doing as much as we can to reach our Native students and get them involved academically and culturally.
That's amazing. Like getting that feeling of involved, like you belong, you know, to those kids. Yeah, it's so cool. That's amazing. I don't know how you guys get all this done. Like I just must not sleep. You're working all the time.
I'm telling you, this panel, Bonnie,
sorry about the delay.
Frank and this group of ladies right here, they're amazing leaders, and they're national leaders. And it's been a long time coming for our Native culture, just to have the voice out there, to lift the voice. And again, I just can't say how thankful I am today to have this group here.
Can I say something, JP, real quick? Everybody, I want you to know that I met JP at one of our back to school events. He not only was a teacher at Cheyenne High School and a coach,
Chaparral.
Chaparral. I mean at Chaparral, I'm sorry. Yeah. And he also was a tutor for our program, for the Indian Ed program. And he was a NASA advisor, a Native American Student Association, because we try to get a NASA group at every middle school and high school. So he did all of that for Indian Ed. And then we partnered together to do the November Native American Heritage Month event. So we brought in speakers and his students took the leadership role in that. So we were teaching leadership skills through that.
Sari Rupert was one of those speakers. She
Cinnamon.
was just a great leader.
Yeah.
And I know Cinnamon. What I'm really excited about for Cinnamon, she's young. So
you just have to start her journey. Yes.
She's going to have this voice for the next 30, 40 years. I mean, I'll be out of the game in just a few years, but always supporting. But Cinnamon is just starting, and wow, what you have already done is a game changer. Trust me. When I was a kid, I couldn't find books about Native Americans. I didn't. The books I found were cowboys and Indians, and the Indians always lost, and I wondered why that was, because that's not true. The natives didn't always lose. In fact, the Battle of the Bighorn, the American flag was actually captured for the first time by a combative enemy. And natives were never the enemy. It's just that's the picture that's been painted. Okay, so understand that. I know Stephanie showed those books earlier, but Stephanie's doing some work behind the scenes. And Della, I miss those volleyball battles, like your team against my team at those picnics. I miss that. I miss it so much. I know Micheline got to come to Chaparral one hot September night to watch a football game. I'm really excited to hear about these books. So.
I know. Cinnamon, like, do you want to share, like, how did you get started writing? Like, that's such a bold step. Like, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to put it out there. I would feel so vulnerable. I'd be like, nobody's going to buy my book. Like, how'd you start that idea?
Sure. So I grew up here in Lame Deer, Montana on the Northern Cheyenne Indian Reservation. And I remember too being a student in school where we didn't have a lot of Indigenous literature to read growing up. I actually went off reservation to Colstrip School where I didn't feel my culture was supported or brought into the classroom in any way. In 6th grade, I transferred on reservation to Lame Deer schools where we did have culture class. We were being taught our language and how to bead and how to raise teepees and about arrow throwing and meat cutting and all those amazing things that for me made a colonial institution like a school, a public school, more enjoyable, like we had mentioned before. I think for the teachers who are listening, I think it's important that you all realize that schools, especially in Indigenous communities, were set to assimilate us and break us from our identity and culture. And so if you are a white body standing at the front of a room and there's Indian students looking at you, we have to understand the historical trauma that's inherited on both sides. So such that for the students, you represent whiteness. And that's entirely important for you to be aware of when you're experiencing resistance from the students. So as an Indigenous person, when we introduce ourselves, we say our names as well as the names of our families we descend from and our tribal nations that we represent. However, we're operating in American society, which is very individualistic, and that's a product of colonization. So when our students are seen in the classroom as only a self, they're feeling a disconnect because already they don't get to connect to the families and the nations or give voice to that. So we talk about Indigenous voices. Our voices have always been here. Our voices have always been lifted. Only now is it that America is opening their ears to hear our voices. So with that, I have raised my voice to write this book called Go Dance, which is a fiction book. It's part of the reading intervention set, the RISE reading intervention set with Scholastic. I got an email from a colleague. Scholastic was looking for an Indigenous author. So a mutual friend sent it my way and asked if I'd be interested in doing this one-time hire contract for Scholastic to write the book. So of course I jumped on this opportunity because like I said, growing up in the Scholastic book fairs, you know, first and foremost, my family was poor and didn't have money to spend on Scholastic book fairs. Like first and foremost, if I got anything from a Scholastic book fair, it was a friendship bracelet or a bookmark, you know, the cheapest item on the catalog. Furthermore, if my family did have money, there weren't books about Indian people that I wanted to read represented anyhow. So I did this first book, Go Dance, and it features the story of my family, my partner, and our son. It's a fiction story about our son dancing at the Lame Deer Chiefs Powwow for the first time, where he gets scared approaching the arena because of all the lights and you know all the attention in the arena. He gets scared, but his dad encourages him to go dance. So that title I created first. Go ahead.
Will you read us just a page or two from there? Just let us hear that voice.
Sure.
And how many kids are like getting that book like handed to them in class and being like, what?
Well,
like,
I don't, right. So I don't right now. I had to actually fight internally with Scholastic because the contract was making this book available as part of the reading intervention set only. So when I asked when they were published, they said, here's the link, and it linked me to the entire reading intervention set, which was $8,000. So I began to buck up and say, this is an injustice being done, that you've hired an Indigenous artist to write for you, and the books are not making it into the hands of Indian children because no school on the reservation has $8,000 to spend on an intervention set where they would only receive one copy of each of my books.
Yeah, I'm familiar with those sets. It's like, you know, like they come in the boxes, and yeah, now I know what you're
right. So this is the second one they hired me to do. This is a biography about Maria Tall Chief. Woman of Two Worlds is her Osage name. She was America's first prima ballerina. She helped make ballet popular in this country, but nobody gives credit to the Indigenous leaders who have contributed to American society a lot of the time. So to read, I just shared, this is the page I have shared repeatedly on social media. It's a picture of me kissing my son and then his dad taking him to the arena. And you can see on the speaker stand, I made very sure that they included our symbology. So the speaker stand has a morning star right there because the Cheyenne people are known as morning star people. So just one quick reading from it is, after we got our son all ready, I'm kissing him and telling him, remember, son, this isn't just for fun. Our dancing brings healing. You're doing this for the people, his mom said, kissing his cheek. I'll be watching from the stands. And the next page is his dad, looking towards the arena. You're up next, Spencer, let's go. And for me, it was important to represent my partner with tattoos, because he does have tattoos, and also to represent my family with the complexion that we have, because often people say, looking Native American and they're only adhering to brown skin and black hair, which is part of the stereotypes that are harmful for Indigenous people like me who weren't blessed with, the melatonin necessary to be brown or to have black hair. So this is really what I do, is try to share history. And I think like two things I want to offer as far as if there are teachers on and you're looking for ways to celebrate culture in your classroom, this is kind of entirely what I do, offer presentations about how to decolonize your classroom. And two things I want to say are, being a Cheyenne student, I had to pledge allegiance to the American flag in schools growing up, which was disruptive to my nervous system, knowing the history of the Sand Creek Massacre, where my people were underneath that flag and a white flag of truce. The government had made agreements with my people that we could exist in this boundary, but yet they intruded that boundary and we huddled under the American flag and under the white flag on November 29th, 1864. But yet General Shivington and his command, proceeded to slaughter us. So being a student and having to pledge allegiance to this flag was internally harming me each and every day. So if you have to do that, I need you to be mindful of what that means for Indigenous children, specifically Cheyenne children. But you can pair it with a land acknowledgement that you do in your classroom every morning, which is asking for permission to be on the land that you are on. Because if you're not Indigenous, regardless of what type of people you come from, if you come here to this land, you are a settler. So when we talk about culture in the classroom and people being shamed by teachers, it's because teachers in the educational ecosystem is actually lacking proper education about the foundations of this country, and the school systems helps purport that false narrative about this country. Colonization started 1492 and America being born with the Declaration of Independence. I told Scholastic, because I serve on their National Equity Advisory Board, in the introductory meeting, when schools do audits of their American Indian content, they need to not only check if the books representing natives are accurate, but rather any book that's talking about America, if Indigenous people are not page 1, sentence 1, then you're telling the story of America wrong. So this isn't just Indian history, it's American history, and the school systems need to change to include that and to understand us so that our children can truly celebrate and be welcomed and celebrated in this highly colonized institution called school.
Great. Oh yeah, the textbooks are a mess. That's no doubt. We only have a few minutes because I 1000% agree. I know that was the big argument about the 1619 project. Because it was just that little tweak on telling the story just from a different mindset, and people lost. But it was it's important, and I love all those schools that have adopted it. So maybe you can write the next 1619 project. You can rewrite the book so we can.
That's what I'm here to do.
To see that artwork and to see a mother kiss her son and to explain the medicine that comes from the dance, that is the most powerful voice that we can share with our children. It's very touching that you shared that with us, and that it's actually personal for you because it's part of who you are. That makes it even more special, more powerful. And I would say you're just a great mother for doing that. And every mother loves their children, no matter what the circumstances are. But you really raised the value of that relationship. And then the other side of it is too, and Frank kind of touched on this earlier, was, he was raised by his auntie, his grandmother. And this happens in all communities. But you showed the father with his son and that guidance and that leadership to say, hey, I'm going to take you out there and you're going to dance. And you have the Morning Star, which everybody knows, or they should know now, that that's a Cheyenne symbol and representation. I know we had some other things planned for this, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time because it's Saturday and it's family day. But Bonnie, I think we're both learning here, and this is my culture, right? We're both learning. There's some surveys too, that we're going to put up for you, and those surveys are important for Della, and they're important for our leadership team here at Global GEG, so we can continue to do this Voices Project and this event, and continue to have great guests on board. I know. I still want to touch on this art piece, and then I want to get into that third piece on the educational attainment. Mitch, behind you is some super colorful artwork, and I don't know if you could just show those on your screen and tell us real quick about the artists there, because I looked at the artwork in the book, and I'm seeing that artwork. That's a whole nother piece of it. I know Della also has so much involvement with CCSD Native students and their art projects, and I've seen those for years. But that art, what is that art back there? It looks incredible.
It's actually from another combat veteran who I'm very close to, and is our brother. My brother Franklin, big man. He is a well-known artist. He's got, I think, a couple of pieces in the Smithsonian, but this is what some of his, I think I carry his artwork everywhere, but this is what he does. These are some of his paintings. If you, I'm trying to get it to where it angles right. This is one where you can actually see the wolves that are in the trees, that are part of the tree. Not inside, but they're on the surface. And then this is a traditional warrior. So these are just some of the pieces my brother has me, he tries to he's, I guess you could say, freelance. He does a lot of paintings, drawings. He's also was doing the missing and murdered Indigenous. He was helping in that push. So a lot of people ask him, hey, could you give him an idea, especially all of his are pretty much Native. I mean, he's really strong with the Native culture. And like I say, these are some of his paintings. And he does a lot of different artwork. He does have a Facebook page, Franklin Bigman, and he has some pieces on there. He does sculpting. He does a little bit of everything, but I know he's almost completed his bachelor's degree. I think it's actually in art. So, but he is a combat veteran. He was in the Somalia conflict. He was in the 101st Airborne Division. So I'm from a family that have served, but we've known JP. Me and Frank have known JP for I think almost 30 years. And
last century. Right?
Yes. So
I want to lead this into our final piece of today's discussion on this event. So just to recap, we really wanted to show in the Voices Project that there was a technology piece to education. Stephanie really brought that out extremely well, just showing about the technology and the needs. And then we had that discussion. And then we had the discussion on the cultural identity, and everybody shared that aspect of it, which was really deep and profound. And then Cinnamon, the books are so deep to erasing that trauma. And I guess we really can't erase the trauma. We have to acknowledge it, and we have to know that it's there, and we have to teach how to cope and how to come into a classroom setting. And so hopefully that has opened up some eyes for our educators who are watching, that even understanding what the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, because educators it's just ingrained. You come in first thing in the morning, you have a routine, you say the pledge, okay, but for the generational sufferers of trauma, and I'm talking, this is generational. So Sand Creek was a long time ago, right? It's not recent, but we are still dealing and coping with that trauma of just that one specific event. And there's been many, many, many other events that have occurred in the whole history of Native American history on this land and this soil. And it's more than we can obviously address today, but the good news is this is going to be a continual platform. The Voices Project is going to be a continued platform with our incredible leaders at Google Education and the Global Google Education Group, which Bonnie is one of those leaders. Stephanie earlier, one of the leaders. Stacy Klein, who you don't see on screen, but she is one of the leaders too, and she's made this just look like we are all these super professionals today. So I got to give her that big shout out. And we are going to get back to that video of Jayla with the sound is so important. But this last little piece that I want to bring out today is really about the educational attainment. All of you are highly educated. Obviously, you have worked incredibly diligently and you value education. Okay, that's so obvious that you value education. And not only that, you love your community, you love your people, your culture, your history, the trials, the tribulations, the triumphs, the victories. It's obvious that our panelists have this deep, deep character today, and you're doing so much. I believe it's really historical, the event we're having today, because it's the first one. But, I want to get into this question, and I really want to get that feedback from everyone. When we talk about educational attainment, because you've all been through the process, you've been from kindergarten to high school to college to graduate level, and there's certain pieces of language or certain understandings that you have to have of how a system works. You have to have this in-depth bicultural understanding that Frank was talking about. He was raised Catholic and he had to understand that piece of it, and he had to piece together the Native piece. I think that's so important for educational attainment for success. I guess really the question would be that I would just ask is, what do you really believe are the values that our students, our families, our parents, our teachers, our educational leaders, what are the values that we need to have so we can lift the voices of our Native children, of our Indigenous children? What are the values, starting with your own value systems and what you see as relevant? And anybody can take that question.
I'll start.
Oh, and we have, I just want to mention this. I want to say hello and really introduce Jayla. And Jayla is the daughter of Becky Brown, and Becky Brown is a second grade teacher, and they are on YouTube with us live from the Pine Ridge Reservation. So thank you. Oh my gosh. Go watch Jayla's videos. We're going to show hers in again. But back to that question, what are the values we need to have for the voices? And thank you to Miss Torres. Amber had to dip out. She's got to go take care of some serious business for her community. We're thankful to have her. The values, what are those?
Can you hear me, John?
Yes, ma'am.
One of the important values that I think that we need to have is to understand that there are perceived barriers. We need to understand that every American Indian parent wants their child to succeed, just like any other parent wants their child to succeed. And as an educator, we also want our students to succeed. So that partnership of working together, especially with Native parents, because there are so many tribes. And when it comes to educating, that's a huge task. And I think that sometimes teachers are overwhelmed because they're like, you want me to teach what history, you know, all 574 tribes. I mean, what is it? And so what I think is something that would really, really assist in educators is that partnership with the parents. We need the parents. We value the parents. You guys have the education. We need your input. We need, you know, we have a fabulous Clark County Indian Education Committee with Petra Wilson and Rhiannon Fuller and Anita Navajo. These ladies are amazing. And so I would like to see more involvement. And I know those parents value their kids, value their beliefs. And so I guess what I'm saying is I want to encourage them to share that with us. Because we're limited. We need parents to be involved.
That parental voice is crucial. I know all of those parents. They are amazing. They're vested in the IEOP program and have spent so many years volunteering and building that up. So Della, you say the connection, the interaction, and the value of the parents' voices, right? The partnerships, right? And Cinnamon and Micheline, you're both parents, and you know, what do you see as the values that educators need to be learning to lift Native American voices in their classrooms?
One thing that I've had to kind of bring to the attention of some of our educators, especially here in Florida and being in a remote learning atmosphere, is understand patience and value it. And I always taught my kids, and I learned this even as a veteran when I first became a leader, was never forget where you came from, what it took for you to get there, and never forget who you are. And always use that respect. Respect comes in so many different avenues, and that's one thing I always instill in my kids. But one of the things I brought to the teachers, and I know because there is a lot of moving pieces, is the value of patience. Even sometimes taking that extra few seconds to understand. Because I was an educator in the military. I was an instructor. So I had, when I was at the NCO Academy, there were so many things that I had to understand and be patient about, because not everybody's caught everything at the same level. And so I had my experience in that, and then teaching the soldiers as well as teaching my kids. So teaching comes you don't have to be an actual teacher. Being a parent is a teacher, being a mother is being a teacher. When I was a soldier, I was a teacher. But I guess the biggest value is the education and awareness. That is a big thing for me in all aspects.
For me, I'd like to contribute or actually affirm Della's partnership and Micheline saying patience. I think I was thinking of those two things right away as well. So the thing I would offer is like Frank had mentioned, and maybe I'm saying this on his behalf, is being relational, actually understanding your students and who they are. And when we say lifting Indigenous voices, that also means listening to Indigenous voices. And our languages hold our worldviews. And something that's been so valuable, and this is something I share every time I speak with educators, is that in the Lakota language, the word we have for child is Wakaija. And Waka means sacred, and Ija means like gift or being. So we literally see our children as sacred beings. And so the value I would say for educators that I would offer too is humility. Knowing that they are our precious gifts that we're sending to you for hours a day, be it digital or in person, and to come at them with that patience and care. The same way, and the way humility plays a role is, I've had to have conversations with my son's teacher and principals in advance of social studies sessions like Thanksgiving, to say, don't just repeat what you're inheriting because it's a harmful narrative. So be humble and know, like, oh, here's an Indigenous voice. They speak for the history of this land. I should listen and adjust necessarily, however I'm being encouraged to, and not just repeat what schools have been repeating for the last hundreds of years that are harmful for our children and harmful for this country's trajectory. We need to really stop and pause, be humble, be able to take feedback and actually make the changes in your classroom that maybe you're afraid to make because you might be the only one making this change, or you're in an oppressive system where test scores are what's valued over social emotional education teachings. Our kids need regulation. They're in traumatized communities. They come from hard homes. And we know that there's a lot of responsibility put on teachers to help offer education and the social emotional regulation. But if teachers, I would say, would not only lift Indigenous voices, but listen to us and make those changes in the classroom, because if I had a magic wand, I'd make tons of changes to schools from an Indigenous perspective and an Indigenous worldview, which would help the bodies of Indian children be at peace in order to access the upper part of their brain to be logical and to grow cognitively.
I don't even know how to follow that. My gosh, Cinnamon, I'm taking notes and get a tutoring session from you at some point so I can become a better leader and better educator and listener myself. Just the main points that I got from Della were, and for all of our teachers that are on with us right now, thank you for being on with us, and just take this to heart that you're hearing from the voices of our Native leaders right now, and you're the bridge in all of this. As an educator and a teacher or a leader, you have to be that bridge out and take what you're learning today back to your role. Whether you're a para, whether you're a classroom aide, whether you are the teacher, whether you're a program coordinator, facilitator, director, superintendent, as Frank, chief director, chief operating director, chief officer. The point of this Voices project is that you learn and you gain wisdom and insight to now take this to your role and become even that much better. I know thousands of teachers, literally thousands, tens of thousands, all across the nation, and I know Della does too, and Bonnie, you do too. So if anything, we want to inspire you today as educators to build those parental relationships. That was from Della. Incredible insight about those relationships. And then Micheline, just to hear about the patience, just remembering to be patient and be patient in that relationship building aspect and the value of patience. And Cinnamon, to say children are a sacred gift. I've only heard my mother say that. God bless her. She's not with us anymore, but it tells me your heart is so huge, that you have this huge, huge heart. And you talked about humility. We can all eat a little more humble pie. And it's non-fat, so it's good for us. Yeah, humble pie. But you're all agents of this change, and I'm so thankful that you've been here today. I know we're getting ready to close out. We've had a 2-hour session. Usually our sessions don't last this long, but this first one, Voices, was so important to establish. Right, Bonnie?
Teachers, yeah, it was amazing. But the teachers listening, I found a lot of times we'll have the people that are here already know this is a problem and already care enough to take time on a Saturday to watch this. So we definitely want to be mindful to share it maybe to our teacher friends who didn't come, who maybe, aren't already keen to hear, and kind of spread the gospel about this kind of stuff.
Good news. Cinnamon has this really cool shirt on. We show us that.
Cinnamon's cool.
You guys, everybody who's watching right now needs to be aware of what's going on with, I think it's the Navajo Nation.
Yeah.
And the land grab that's currently really trying to occur, and we need to be a voice for this nation. And we need the important part of this. Here's the important piece, and I hope everybody gets this. It's time to do the right thing. It's time. It's time to do the right thing in our communities, in our nation, in this world. And we have to set aside our differences. We have to. And we need to have a level of respect for human life that allows a simple voice of a child to be heard. And the incredible aspect about children is children are innately born with the value of what's right and what's wrong. And they always speak the truth, because until you teach them differently, that's all they know. And the truth of the matter is, the voices of Native American children, Native American communities, Native American families, our elders, our veterans, our educators like Miss Della Frank herself, our superintendents like Frank No Runner, our warriors like Micheline Bigman, our authors, our speakers like Cinnamon Spear Killsfirst. These voices are the voices that are going to help us do the right thing for our children. We have to do this, guys. So I'm excited that this is just the launch of the Voices Project. I have some news I'm so dying to share about Micheline. I can't share it because I'm on a gag order. But I'll just say this. Watch the inauguration this week. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. But that's all I can say, and I might even get in trouble for that. But just watch the inauguration.
JP, you might be worse at keeping a secret than me. I thought it couldn't be done, but you might be worse.
That's it. Again, I didn't say what it was. I want to do some important thank yous, and then we're going to see that incredible video this time with the sound. We won't even get off until we know that we've seen it in its entirety with the sound. I want to thank Cinnamon. You're precious. Thank you for representing the Morning Star people, and for representing the Northern Cheyenne tribe. I have so many friends and family that are so dear to me over in Deer, over in Colstrip, over in Ashburn. And all I got is a lot of love for you. Okay. Big hugs from Della. I want to say thank you to Miss Della Frank, who has been my career-long mentor. I love your background. You have all these books, which shows you're super, super smart. And then you have a 4-letter word that we need to know, love. This is all about love for our children and our communities. I want to thank Miss Amber Torres, who works tirelessly in Schurz, Nevada, to be the light in her community and for her tribe of the Walker River Paiute tribe. Amber is a leader, and I would be watching for her to appear on the national leadership scene very soon in Native America. Okay. And of course, I want to thank Frank No Runner, our superintendent. Frank is just this true guy who super special, and he's overcome everything. A lot of people are asking where to buy Cinnamon's book, so we're going to get that to you in just a moment. Okay, I would say buy it from her directly, but we'll put that up there where you can actually find her book right now. It's at Scholastic Books. It's shop.scholastic.com. And you can just put her name in the search and the name of the book. Show us those books one more time. Flash those on the screen for us. Go Dance, which is my favorite. That's my reading level too, so I can't wait to read that book. Micheline knows that's true. You get tired of reading quantum physics and things like that. Maria Tallchief, who every Native student should know, she's a hero. And I know we're really working to get some other Native heroes on this format. And then I want to thank our warrior, my sister, Micheline Bigman. She went to an actual war zone, not once, not twice, 3 times. War does so much to a human being. Micheline, you're so strong. You're so strong. I could not think of another person on this planet to be the voice for all of these beautiful children in our Native American lands and our communities. And you're a warrior, and you have this grace, and you have this dignity, and you have love in your heart, and that's so important for our children. Micheline, God bless you. Thank you. I know your mission has not stopped, and I am here to back you up in that mission. And I know you have a great team that we'll probably see on TV on the 20th or something like that. I don't know. I'm just imagining something like that. But and then I want to say thank you again, because there's 2 people who really made this possible. Dr. Chris Bernier, and of course, Joe Caruso from CCSD. Thank you for your vision and for understanding and for your trust. Greatly, greatly appreciated. I would love to visit you guys down in Vegas in the near future, and get out of this 11-degree weather. So hopefully that happens fairly soon. And then, of course, my team. I've got the best team. Stacy Klein. You guys have never seen her, because you don't see important people. You just hear their name and you learn about what they do. Stacy, this event would not happen without you. This has been better than actually NBC Studios or CBS or CNN. I'm not slamming those guys. They do a good job, and Fox News and all them, they do a good job. There's Stacy right there. She is our super producer. She is the one who's produced this show today and the technology that has allowed this platform. And my gosh, I mean, this lady is incredible. And then, of course, my ace, my 504 ace.
I'm gonna stop you right there. Thank you for letting me be here. I mean, look at these people that are here. Like, I do not deserve to be on this stage. I'm gonna just stop you right there and say thank you for letting me be here with like the coolest group of people ever. So that's it.
Bonnie, you deserve to be here and more. Trust me.
Cool.
So much work that you're doing down there. And Louisiana was so hard hit by the hurricane so many years ago.
We had a rough year. But I have a fishing camp, and where it's all the way in the south. They have a lot of articles written about the area. Al de Jean Charles, and where the Homa tribe and like the island is basically washing away and stuff. It's a really, really, really sad story. Nothing good is coming out of it. It's not like a story where I can say like, yeah, it's getting better. It's not. Like the island's just going away.
Hook me up with those people so I can get their voice on here. And then of course, Stephanie Rosting, Teacher of the Year, and you should know why if you were watching today. But her wisdom of technology and how to deliver virtual learning. I know you can find her on Twitter, Facebook, Global GEG. She's one of our leaders, so super incredible. And I have to thank, and I hope she's watching, I have to thank Jayla. I don't use last names for young children because I'm a protector as well. But Jayla and Miss Becky Brown, Jayla, we love you, young lady. You keep dancing and you keep showing those videos and start thinking about becoming a dance instructor of Native American dance, and fancy shawl, jingle, curl hop, grass dance, all of that. Jayla, you got a huge future. I would predict like people from Hollywood are going to become knocking on your door soon. So your voice is beautiful. And again, thank you to everyone. Your comments, the chat box. I want to thank Judy Keller. Judy is recognizing Micheline for your service, and she said thank you for your service. I want to thank also Javier Belin and Gerardo Navarrete, our other partners behind the scene down in Mexico. But their work was super important. And then I also want to say we didn't forget our guy Wiley Brazier, who would have been here today. But again, let's just keep Wiley in our prayers and our thoughts in our heart. And of course, there was a lot of love from Katia Riley with CCSD. Thank you, Katia. You are an agent of change. So wonderful for supporting Miss Della Frank. I just got a whole lot of love for you guys right now, and I'm very appreciative. And Stacy, is the video okay? So the video's ready. So guys, I'm gonna just say one more time, thank you to everyone. This has been the Voices Project inaugural launch. If you want to get in touch with any of these people to see how to empower your community, you can reach me at Montana GEG on Twitter, and I can link you with all of these incredible leaders. Thank you for your support. Okay. Thank you for being open-minded to voices. And I hope your day is a little bit brighter, a little bit warmer. Remember to love and hug those people who are close to you today. We're not promised tomorrow. Remember to tell everyone in your circle who is important that they mean so much and that you love them, and that you'll be there for them. And I just want to say thanks. Stacy, will you show that video of Jayla? And I will see you guys in about a month's time, because we're going to do this again for Frank. It'll be the hour-long format, and he'll have longer opportunity to discuss restorative justice. And anybody who would like to be a guest for Native Voices, again, please contact me at Montana GEG, or you can even reach out to Global GEG. They can put you in touch with me. Thank you to our partners at Google Education. Let's see that great video. Jayla, here's your shining moment again, Jayla.
Yeah, thank you, JP, for putting this together. And this is what it's all about: is amplifying voices, changing the narrative. Thank you.